Greetings and hello to everyone. This is the Business of Betting podcast, and I'm your host, Jake Williams. Today is episode 33, and we have Vegas Matty joining the show. Matty Simo is one half of the most trusted football proxy team in Las Vegas. Vegas Matty helps contestants get their picks in for all the Las Vegas contests, including the Westgate Super Contest. We talk about what makes the Super Contest so popular and all the ins and outs of the Las Vegas contest scene, including why these are not sports betting contests. This podcast is proudly sponsored by Betfair. Betfair operates a betting exchange and is licensed in the Northern Territory of Australia. Residents of Australia can join Betfair by visiting betfair.com.au and support this podcast by using promo code BOBPOD. Please gamble responsibly. As always, you can find us at businessofbetting.com or at bettingpod on Twitter. Please fire in any questions or feedback and potential guests you would like to hear from. So thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy my chat with Vegas Matty. Today I am joined by Vegas Matty from footballcontest.com. Matty, thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks for having me. Happy New Year to you.
Thank you, sir. So how long have you been in Vegas for?
Well, I've had two different tours of duty here in Vegas. The first was right out of college. I lived here from 96 to 98, and then I came back in 2005, and I've been here ever since. So that's kind of how I got started with the whole proxy service. I know we're going to talk about that shortly, but it was pretty much right away when I got back here and saw kind of what was going on with the landscape of contests, especially the Super Contest, and how it started to grow. And I'm sure we'll delve into that shortly.
Absolutely. So take us back to when you were interested in betting, or what led you to go to Vegas in '96. What were some of your early experiences in betting?
Well, right out of college, I came out here. A buddy of mine got a job with a company called Data Broadcasting Corporation, and what they did, if you would see these contraptions now, you would laugh, but it was maybe they're out there on Google, like if you do like an image search, but it's called Sport Tracks, and it was really like a handheld device. This was before cell phones were super popular. It almost looked like a pocket calculator, and it was like this little handheld device that you would get like live betting line updates on. And it was a company, the DVC Sports was the name of the company. We also worked with another company called Computer Sports World that put together these little matchup reports for every game out there that were printed out. They were actually, if you went to the old Gamblers library at the Stardust Sportsbook back in the day, you would just see all this dot matrix paper pasted up on the wall. And this is before the internet, or when the internet was just kind of starting out. But people would just go in there and they would look at this information and try to get an edge on a game. And like I said, we'd cover everything, every major sport, every game in every sport. And what I did was I wrote up like a paragraph for a game, kind of just breaking down some betting trends and things like that to kind of help somebody who didn't know much about a game, to kind of give them like an easy to read synopsis of where to possibly make a wager on the game. So that's kind of how I got started way back then, was working for this company. They kind of like ended up getting spun off into what became Vegas Insider years later. It was the old CBS Sportsline at one point. I mean, there's all kinds of different things, but this was all back when, betting was more, underground. People didn't want to talk about it. And of course, before the internet really got booming. And now, like I said, if you saw like some of these line services, the software that was used and the different, contraptions that the lines would come out at, you just like laugh.
Well, the name itself, Computer Sports World, it sounds crazy now that someone would name their business that. But I guess back then, pre-internet days or pre...
Exactly. That's how you got your information. I mean, people would just download these things. They download the program information and to their computer and print it out. They'd get stuff faxed to them. It's very archaic now, but I mean that was the way to get it back then.
Interesting. And then you had a break from Vegas. What did you do in
I
between?
did, yeah. I went to California. I kind of took a break. I was up in Silicon Valley during the .com boom, so I kind of jumped up there. The same friend that I had got me the job here in Vegas was working at Netscape up there, so he got me kind of out of Vegas at the time. I always wanted to live in California, so I just jumped at that opportunity. Spent 3 years up in San Francisco area, and then moved down to Southern California. Lived there for 3 years, and I came back here just because the whole I've always had an interest in sports betting, and writing about sports comes very easy to me. It just was an easy way for me to make money and kind of try to communicate to people, like different angles on games and things like that, and just write game previews up. That was kind of just has always been, like I said, it's always come easy to me, and I enjoy doing it. So it kind of just always kind of led me back here.
So I want to talk about betting contests, and this is your area of expertise. You're a proxy, and we'll get to that soon. But
yeah.
Is the Super Contest the biggest handicapping contest in the sports world? Is there anything bigger than the Super
Absolutely,
Contest?
yeah. There's nothing right now that compares to it, and you got to be careful with betting contests because that's one of the things that they are still trying to differentiate. With the whole world of DFS and everything like that. I mean, the reason that proxies exist is because it is a contest and it's not technically betting. They use lines that in the contest that are in fact contest lines. The lines don't move throughout the week. Whatever comes out Wednesday is what you get, and when you submit your picks on Friday, Saturday. So that's kind of the differentiation in why proxies are able to submit picks, in the Super Contest and other contests around Vegas.
Is that why there's stale lines? Because I always wondered why they don't just eliminate that stale line situation.
Yeah, because once you have like live lines like that, then somebody could, maybe turn in their picks like on a Wednesday and get the what they think is a good number. A lot of people would wait to the last minute, and it just it's one of those things. Yeah, it's as long as if it's using like live lines like that, it would be considered more or less a betting contest, I would think.
Okay, interesting. No, I always wondered that, and then I guess there's some Wire Act implications probably, or PASPA or whatever it might be. So there's probably a fair bit that's gone into differentiating it from a betting contest.
Right, exactly. I leave that to Jay Cornegay and the guys at the Westgate to go through with the Nevada Gaming Board and setting that up. I mean, they go through this every year, with them when they want to make any changes. Like last year, they just introduced the Super Contest Gold Contest, which was a, kind of a higher end version of the Super Contest. That was a $5,000 entry fee opposed to $1,500 and a winner take all. So that's like, just an example of something new that the Westgate Superbook put together this last year. But they, every year they have to go through compliance and, come up with different rules as far as the prize pool goes. Everybody, I've heard this so many times, especially since the contest ended. It was like, they've got to take more than just the top 50, especially when they had 2,748 entrants this last year, which was a record by about 1,000 people, 1,000 people more than the previous year. And they still had the same prize pool of the top 50. So they thought, well, what if you go to like a poker style, payout structure or something like that? Well, the problem with that is, it's got to be approved every year, so they have to, be able to present that and say, all right, we're going to limit this number of people. I don't think, until other things might get approved down the road, I think it's going to be, pretty much, maybe they'll go to a top 100 or top 75 next year. They definitely need to increase it because 50 is just too little.
Rethink the way you see sport. Every action or play can be represented by a series of numbers. When you analyze this data, patterns begin to emerge. If you follow these patterns and develop systems, you can play the game within the game. Betfair.com.au. Gamble responsibly.
Okay, so for those who don't know what the Super Contest is, can you break it down in simple terms how it works?
Yeah, absolutely. It's picking 5 NFL sides against the spread every week for 17 weeks. So if you get a pick right, you get 1 point. If it's a push, it's a half point, and then you just add up all your points at the end of the season. And the top 50 places at the end of the year get paid out based on their prize pool, which this year I think was well over $3 million, something like that.
So,
yeah,
pursuant to my good math, there's 17 weeks, 5 a week. What's that? 85 picks. So there's 85 points up for grabs.
Right.
And basically, there's a lot of people involved at the moment. I know Bill Simmons has talked about it in the past, and Chad Millman has pushed it a fair bit in recent years when he was at ESPN, certainly. So what is it about the Super Contest that makes it so popular?
I mean, the winner this year took home more than $1.3 million. So, I mean, that's just alone the opportunity to be able to win that kind of money. Back when I started doing this, there were like 300 or 400 people in the contest. And, the prize pool is much smaller. Top 4, top 5 paid out like maybe 20 grand. Now you've got, top 15, or I shouldn't even say that. It's even, much more than that. Like, you've got the top 9 places this year paid 6 figures, so that's a significant amount of money that's available. And really it's kind of like, I don't want to say it's the everyman's contest, but one of our current clients, Damon Graham, he was the guy who won at the barista at this time last year. I think his story, seeing him finish first last year and then a farmer from Illinois finishing second, really made it kind of a great story as far as, if these guys can win the Super Contest, then why can't I? So it's just that potential to win a lot of money. And, 17-week run is very difficult. I mean, it's not something where I always tell people it's a marathon, not a sprint, but you do need a good sprint at some point to be able to put yourself in position to win it.
So what you mentioned, the barista and a farmer. What is the base of the contestants in the Super Contest now?
It's just all over the place. Yeah, I mean, some guys, it's on their bucket list. They've always wanted to do the Super Contest, so they come out here with some buddies and just sign up, and it's a one-time deal. Others, we had a client last year who his intention was to just enter one time, like a bucket list thing, and then he ended up finishing in the money, and then he took that money and he set it aside for this year. And he didn't win any money this year, but he said he's still trying to figure out if he wants to get back in it next year. So it's like, it could be like a domino effect where you go from year to year, and you just, once you're in it and you see how close you get probably to the money, it's kind of like, I don't want to say it's like a sickness or something because it's negative, but it's you get into it and you're like, man, if only I had I had this one bad week. I remember I had a few bad beats here. If I would have only gone, won a couple more games, I would have been in the money. Some of the guys in the money too. I mean, you hear stories all over the place of just bad endings of games. We had actually the 2 guys going for the Super Contest gold title on Christmas night. You probably read about this game and how it finished, but the Eagles playing the Raiders.
Oh, that was one of them? Oh, man.
Yeah. So we had Brett Farr 444, which is one of our clients, and then Stag Capital, who ended up winning the contest, and they were on opposite sides of that game. Stag Capital was on the winning side, which was really miraculous with the, fumbled lateral touchdown at the end to cover the spread, the 8.5 points when they won 19. The Eagles won 19-10. I mean, the Raiders did everything they could to cover that game the entire time, and that was the only way it possibly could have gone, wrong for them. But just having that one game, the way it turned out, it flopped those guys in the standings, and then, Stag Capital guys ended up winning by half a point over another guy, to win $470,000. So, I mean, that's just one example of one game, one bad beat that, really changed the complexion of the contest. And that was in, I believe, week 16.
Yeah. So
very late in the year.
A lot of the people in Vegas talk about it. Even the Vegas media, the sports betting media talk about it. And they talk about consensus picks. They talk about if you want to try and fade the public, you can see what the Super Contest picks are doing now because there's so many entries. What sort of useful betting information do you think you can sort of glean from the Super Contest and I guess each week?
Yeah, I think it varies every year. I mean, it's really there's no rhyme or reason to it. A lot of people like the fade the public kind of viewpoint. No VSiN, the new network here in Vegas that Brent Musburger is the man behind, kind of the face behind, I should say. They did a really good job covering the contest. But a lot of people like to talk about the consensus picks and how bad they do, whatever. But when it comes down to it, overall the season they ended up going 40, 43-2 against the spread, which really right around 500. And if you look historically, the previous 4 years, before that, the top 5 consensus picks, which are the 5 most popular plays every week, ended up were 167, 164, and 9.
Wow.
So, that's about as close to 500 as you're going to get, So to think that their fade material is kind of, it's very misleading, because there's definitely times of the season, if you looked at the consensus picks this year, even, there was one point where they were doing really bad, but then once December rolled around, between weeks 11 and 14, they went 15-5. And then around the same time last year, they were 15-4-1. So it's like, down the final stretch, people kind of figure things out a little bit, and, they realize they've got a lot of money on the line in the contest. And that's really when those consensus picks perform the best, to kind of move up more toward that 500 mark. But it is, it is a popular kind of, stat or something like that people like to look at and argue about. You see people on Twitter, as soon as the consensus picks come out, because we tweet those out every week from our @football contest account. Yep. And you see a lot of our clients that follow us and other people as well are always like, oh man, I got 4 of the top 5 consensus picks were my picks, I'm screwed. And it's just like, settle down. You never know. The consensus picks might go 5-0 this week, and you might go 4-1, or you might go 5-0. So it's one of those things that's to me it's very overblown. Just if you look at the season as a whole, if you were to bet them every week, you'd be down like a little money, but it wouldn't be anything to really like say, oh, it killed me.
That's really, really interesting for me, because you would imagine there's got to be a fair few stale lines in those consensus picks, right? Or is it Patriots every week?
A lot of people, there's quite a bit. A lot of people do play the line moves in here, but because the lines do come out on Wednesday, Wednesday by 3 p.m. Pacific time, they try to wait until a lot of the injuries and things like that are, they have a pretty good idea. There's maybe, a couple games each week that are in question, and they're kind of, are off the board at the casino, but they're trying to make a guess as to what the line would be. But, every year there's a few games that are like way off, like, a few points. But for the most part, they do a pretty good job with the lines. And, it's a matter of like whether a guy like Deshaun Watson is going to go down. That was, I think, one of the bigger ones. They were playing the Colts. I think it was, and the line had come out on the Wednesday, and I think he got hurt on Thursday, where he was out for the season. And just the disparity, they ended up losing the game straight up at home. I think they were double-digit favorites. So it was like, that's like one of those rare cases that it doesn't work out. But you have no control over that stuff.
The Betfair Exchange isn't a house that sets the odds. It's betting at its purest. One punter's opinion against another's. Play the game within the game at betfair.com.au. Gamble responsibly.
So are there any other major contests in Vegas, or is it sort of one out, or how does the situation work?
Well, there's another really good contest in town called the Friday Football Showdown at the Golden Nugget. And that one kind of flies under the radar a little bit. It's a $2,000 entry fee, and it's 7 picks instead of 5. And it includes totals and college football. And that's why a lot of guys really like that. And you see a lot of guys play the line moves in that contest as well. The lines don't come out until Thursday at 3 p.m. Pacific time. And, everyone's scrambling to get their picks in. The deadline's even earlier. It's 2 p.m. on Friday. So you basically have less than 24 hours to try to get your 7 picks in. And it's kind of just all over the board. Some guys love playing the college totals. Some like NFL totals. Some like to only play NFL sides. But it gives every football handicapper, the opportunity to go to their strengths. And but basically that contest is like a regular contest for 10 weeks, and then they go to an invitational type of format where it's like a head-to-head, and you go up against this year it was like they had a 16 contestant bracket, and then like the top 4 guys got buys. So it's very interesting. It's more of a, you got to get pretty lucky like down the stretch to be able to advance. We had the winner, Chris Kozak. His alias was Muck Nuts. He won it last year and he won it this year too.
Really?
But yeah, I mean, he's just like had some unbelievable games go his way, but he also made some awesome picks too that you just, you wonder what like went into it. I mean, I'm just a proxy. I just kind of look at him and like I'm, mesmerized by how some of these games turned out. But yeah, he was down like to his competitor in the finals of the Gold Nugget contest, and he needed South Carolina on Monday against Michigan, and they were down, by a couple touchdowns early on, and they ended up winning the game straight up, and he had him +8, and he needed that to win the contest. So that's just like kind of an example of, some games that you're just, the finishes and how they turn out, it just blows you away sometimes.
Yeah, it's probably part of the popularity, the water cooler talk.
Yeah, definitely. But that's like the other major contest in town. Again, the Golden Nugget does that contest, and they kind of tweak it every year. Last year, or not this past year, but 2 years ago, the head-to-head competition only had eight entrants in it, so they doubled that field this year, which made it a little bit more fun. And it'll be interesting to see what happens. But there's less than 100 people in that contest, so hopefully, like next year, and they'll be able to build on the success the last couple of years and double the amount of entries. It's just, everyone knows about the Super Contest, but they don't necessarily know about, the Friday Football Showdown. William Hill is a big sportsbook chain here. They have a college pick'em contest that's 7 college picks for 10 weeks. They got, a couple hundred people in there this year. And, again, it's just the growth. Everyone knows about the Super Contest. They want to do that. That's kind of like the granddaddy of them all. And, it's just interesting to see if some of these other contests pick up steam because of the Super Contest success.
So what about professionals? Are there professionals playing these contests that you can follow?
There's everybody, everybody from like I said, college buddies or, high school buddies, whatever, that like kind of come together. And, I've had clients that, they have like 20 people that like all contribute toward their 5 picks every week. And I'm just like, I don't know how you guys do that.
Yeah, that's asking for trouble.
Figure that out. It is asking for trouble. But there's a lot of teams in it with the $1,500 entry fee. You split it down the middle, and but all walks of life. There's professionals. There's just your average Joes in there. I mean, and it just varies from year to year. Who ends up winning it. So it's, like I said, last year, Damon Graham won, and he's a barista. They just all walks of life, and just the opportunity to win it as anyone. I think that's the appeal to it for sure. It's just if you can kind of get hot at the right time, and kind of go 500 or better, or a little better, like for half the contest, and then just do really well in the other half, or go on a real good run for about a month or so, you put yourself in a good position to win $1 million.
So are there any trends that you've seen throughout the years in the contests, or any sort of hot streaks or weird sort of happenings? Or I'm guessing a lot of statistical minded people would just say it's variance, small sample size, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends in general, like what people like. The whole thing with sharps in the contest that like to play underdogs. Most of the time. I mean, that's kind of what this year was tough on the dogs, especially like certain stretches. Like the last 3 weeks of the season this year. If you go to fantasysupercontest.com, it's one of our partners, and they've got breakdowns for the whole season, and then the last 3 weeks of the season right on the homepage. If you look at like home team favorites against the spread the last 3 weeks of the season, 29-1 against the spread. Home teams in general the last 3 weeks were 28-17-3 against the spread. Well, they're both over 60%. So if you just played those kind of numbers and rode with them, the last 3 weeks when all this money is on the line, you ended up doing pretty well. And that's why this year in particular, if you look compared to last year, how people did in week 17, it's like night and day. Like so many people had winning records in week 17 this season compared to last season. and that's one of the reasons why I think is just because the favorites, people understood that they were doing well and they just kept riding them to the very end.
So what about, is there a common approach for the winners or those that do well, or even your clients that do well? Are they getting hot starts and riding it out? Or, because I would imagine a lot of game theory comes in at the end when if you're a couple behind and you want to try and win, you might just go all contrarian plays, or you might go against the stale lines, I would imagine.
Yeah.
But have you found any sort of ways that people that do well consistently have been able to do that?
Yeah, it just varies. Like it's all over the place. I mean, if you look at the winners and even the guys who finish in the top 5 or whatever every year, there's different walks of life, different ways of handicapping and stuff like that, like I said. And, it's just, I think the common thing is, you just want to be able to finish the season strong. I mean, we had guys who were in the top 5, even 2 or 3 weeks ago who didn't even, finish in the money just because they had poor finishes. That's happened to us, some of our clients the last couple of years. And it happens across the board. I mean, if you have like 2 bad weeks down the stretch, you're not going to finish in the money. You have to be able to really make your move at the end of the season, and not even the winner this year, he went 3-2 in the last week and probably could have done better, but 3-2 is good. It was good enough. He had a 2.5 point lead, so there was no way to catch him. But it's just you just need to finish like the last week of the season or the last month, I should say, is when you should have everything like kind of figured out as far as your handicapping style. You should have a good feel on teams. You should know what teams are fighting for. They're trying to make the playoffs. They're motivated, in these certain spots. Oh, favorites are on a roll. I'm going to keep riding with them. Just kind of keep going with the certain trends and just ride them out and until they end. And then, if there's 1 week that the trend might come to an end, then you just chalk it up and move on and try to see what else is hot and ride that out the rest of the season. Because that's like with the favorites, especially down the stretch this year, that was, I think, the difference maker was just being able to take those favorites and just, turn them into money there at the end of the year.
Yeah, was it 29-1, did you say?
29
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
It would have been a lot better if it was 29-1.
Yeah, I was going to say.
20,
right.
Which is still 69%, still very good, But that's home team favorites against the spread. And road team favorites were 8-7-2. And then you got conversely, the road dogs 9-20-1 against the spread the last 3 weeks. I mean, that's just not going to. A lot of people like to take home dogs. Even and home dogs were 7-8-2 the last 3 weeks of the season, and they were right at 50% for the season, 46, 46, and 5. So that's like just an idea of guys who are sharp. They might want to look at dogs a lot of the time, but this just wasn't a good dog year overall.
Yeah, and I guess the genius is picking the trend before it happens. We can reverse engineer as much as we like, but it sounds like those who do well obviously pick the right one.
Yeah, I mean. The general rule of thumb is like if a team's going to win, they're going to cover 70-80% of the time. So if you just roll with that, if you just pick the teams that you think are going to win, stay away from maybe double-digit favorites and things like that might skew that a little bit. But just pick winners, and if you could pick the teams that you think are going to win the games, they're gonna cover the spread most of the time in that situation.
So what sort of percentage over the season do you need to be in the money or be close to cashing? Are you talking in the mid-60s or is it high 50s?
Yeah, I mean, this year it was like you needed 52 points out of 85. So that was the cutoff.
Okay, so yeah, it sounds like
61%.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was a lot more competitive than last year. Last year, I think you needed 50 and a half. Sorry, to finish in the money. So this year was definitely a lot more competitive. The winner hit over 70%, which is unheard. That's happened 3 of the last 4 years. But that's a really tough number to hit. And that's if you hit that, you should win over $1 million. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I wonder what the math is if you just put, I don't know, $500 on every pick and it went, in the high 60s or whatever these winners are doing. It's a lot of money.
Yeah, it is a lot of money. I mean, over 70%. Yeah, you're doing pretty well, that's for sure.
So where's it trending? Where's it heading, the contest? And I guess all contests in general in Vegas. Is it all looking up, or what do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, the more interest every year, especially, I know gambling in general is getting a lot of, publicity nationwide, and rightfully so, through the government and trying to get things through. Contests are a little different entity right now, and it'll be interesting to see, if there's some kind of sports betting legislation that goes through, how that's going to affect the contest, if people will be able to enter online. If you go way back and you kind of think about why the sports book started these contests, it's to get people in the sports book. So, they didn't think that there would be such like a huge amount of people entering out of state, who are going to use the proxies. I mean, I think proxies like ourselves, that probably, it's more than half the people in the contest use proxies. So, back in the day, it was mostly locals that are entering these contests, and the casino didn't take anything off the top. Now, like the Superbook, the Westgate, for example, takes 8% off the top to try to make something off the contest, because they realize that, they want to get some money off this, because not everyone who's signing up for the contest is going to be making bets on a regular basis. They're going to have proxies putting in the picks for them, and that's just like the way it is. But the main reason contests exist like this is to bring people in the door on a weekly basis, if not more, more often, because that person is going to be walking through the door and hopefully making some other bets while they're putting in their picks.
That's interesting. I didn't know there was an 8% VIG. That seems high.
There is now, yeah. They just started it last year.
Okay.
Yeah. The gold contest does not have that, but the regular contest for the Super Contest does have that. The Golden Nugget contest has no VIG either. It's 100% return. And I think that's a good marketing thing for them, to be able to be a contest that's, 100% payback. But, at the same time, there is a lot that goes into the contest and running it. And, as it grows, especially, it's going to be over 3,000 entrants next year. I do think they're going to allow entrants to enter picks within Nevada if you have the mobile app next year. That's something that I know that they were talking about possibly doing. So that's definitely a possibility. Again, though, you'd have to be within the state borders. You couldn't just have the app and be able to log in from New Jersey or Chicago or some place like that and put in your pick. So the whole proxy thing, I'm not sure, until the contest goes online 100%. I think, they're going to continue, using the same process. It's one of those, if it ain't broke, no need to fix it kind of thing. They'll, use, what's been, taking the contest to this level and kind of just keep rolling with it until something else comes down the road that says, we can open this up to everyone else across the country and let them, possibly register, online and things like that. But, again, being able to do that takes away from the purpose of the contest. So that's, you want to get the people in the book to sign up in the first place. You want to get them, even if they have a proxy, you want to get those people in the book on a weekly basis, if not more, and be able to, make some money off them.
So most of the listeners will be outside, almost all the listeners will be outside of Vegas, I would imagine, and probably NFL fans, a lot of them, or NFL bettors, a lot of them. If they want to get involved, how does that happen? Because you mentioned that they got to sign up in Vegas. Take us through that process, and then obviously submitting picks if they're not in Vegas.
Sure. Yeah, well, with the use of a proxy, if you go to footballcontest.com, that's our website, you can go there and read up, all about the process. We've got a good FAQ we put together that tries to answer every question. If there's something that you still have a question about, feel free to email us at proxy@footballcontestproxy.com. But yeah, I mean, everything is pretty much, you get out here physically to sign up anytime from July 1st until the Saturday before the first games kick off, which is, normally they cut it off like at the same deadline that you have to put picks in, which is 11 a.m. Pacific time. If you just got to get out here to sign up in person.
So you got a couple of months.
Yeah, you got a few months. It's a good July, August, September. You got those, that 2.5 months or whatever period to get out here. And then, you just find a proxy that you trust, that you hire to submit the picks for you. And then, we handle everything via email right now. And, so we email the lines to you, and then you just kind of make your picks, accordingly and send them back to us. And, we confirm that we put them in, that we received them from you, that we put them in. Try to keep the communication as good as possible, because you don't know us from anyone, especially in Vegas. You might think, oh, the proxies are shady characters or whatnot, but we've been doing this for over 10 years now. We have the most people out of any proxy service, and rightfully so. Our reputation speaks for itself. We've had, a couple of the 2 winners in the last 5 years. We've had, more than half the people who cashed in this year's contest were our clients. So, we try to, be as open with communication and as responsive as possible. And I know others try to do the same. But it's really comes down to you being able to get out here. A lot of people just are like, oh, well, can I just send you my money and you sign up for me? No, you have to physically come out here and fill out the entry form yourself, and then you work with us the whole rest of the season, and then hopefully we meet up at the end.
So it's a trip they should plan a trip to Vegas.
Yeah.
In the middle of summer and go to the few pool parties and then sign up and then
exactly, yeah,
get their proxy in place and speak to you about it, and then they can start getting involved in the contest, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, just we've already had people this week. As soon as the contest ended, how do I sign up and for next year's contest? Well, just got to make sure to get out here and sign up in person. That's the number one thing. If you can do that, then we'll make everything else really easy on you, and That's the hard part for a lot of people, is just being able to get out here.
Do you have any international clients? We
do, yeah. We've had clients from all over the globe. We had a guy from Italy this past year.
Wow.
Just it's crazy. Every year, we had a guy from Norway that entered, the Netherlands, Mexico, Finland. We got a lot of Canadians, Ireland. So it has really become an international contest. And there are no restrictions as far as that. I get that too. Can I sign up if I'm from out of the country? And the answer is yes. Again, if you can get somebody to sign up for you. We had a U.S. serviceman who was based in Abu Dhabi. His parents signed up for him a couple years ago, and he was able to make his picks via email from across the globe. So this goes to show it's pretty much anybody can enter. Yeah, as long as you're 21 years or older, and you can find somebody you trust that could sign up for you, or if you get out here in person to do it yourself.
That's very cool. It is a good way to engage in the full season, and I don't know about 20 or 21 people or whatever you mentioned before in one team, but if you have a few people, it's good to get put some
that was ridiculous. That was like one of those that was crazy. I just couldn't believe how many people they had that were making their picks. I mean, I think five people on a team seems like good enough, but yeah, you have that many people and you have to try to figure out what's what, and yeah, I don't know, but it's the way it goes sometimes. Whatever it takes. Maybe you have 15 people that pitch in $100 a piece to enter, or something like that. I don't know.
So what is the entry fee?
It's $1,500. Yep.
And does that get you in just the Super Contest, or is there smaller contests throughout the season?
It's a Super Contest, but they also have a couple of smaller contests within the Super Contest. This year that they started, they had paid out a $20,000 bonus for the leader after the first 4 weeks of the season, and then $20,000 for the leader or leaders at the 8-week mark, and then the last 3 weeks of the season they have something called a mini contest.
Yep.
That is worth $15,000, and we had the winner of that as well this year. But yeah, I mean, it's just they try to make engage people, so if they don't have a chance to win the whole thing, at least they can win a little piece of the pie along the way.
That's very interesting. No, that's very cool. Yep. Vegas Matty, thank you very much for your time. It was cool to chat about something I didn't know too much about, and I'm sure it's interesting for those outside of Vegas or outside of the US who don't know too much about contests. Before I let you go, Twitter handle and the website again, so those who are interested can get in contact.
Twitter handle is pretty easy. It's just @footballcontest, and the website's easy as well, footballcontest.com, and we've got information on all the big Las Vegas football contests there. We try to put as much information on there as possible. But again, if you have any questions, feel free to email us at proxy@footballcontestproxy.com, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. And we hope to work with you next season.
Absolutely. And I can't wait for the first listener to get out to Vegas for a weekend and sign up and then get their proxy picks in through you, and I'm definitely going to try and do it for the first
Awesome.
time in 2018. So thanks again for your time, Matty. Look forward to meeting one day in Vegas, and all the best in 2018.
Yeah, we hope to see you this in a few months here. Thank you.
Residents of Australia can join Betfair by visiting betfair.com.au, and please support this podcast by using promo code BOBPOD. Gamble responsibly.